What's up, guys? Welcome to the video. If you're new here, my name is Chris, and I recently learned a lesson about the power of focus that has completely changed my life. And for the first time, it's given me a sense of control over the direction that I feel like my life is heading in. It's hard for me to even imagine how different things might be for me now if I had learned this lesson even just a little bit earlier on. So I'm sharing it with the hope that you can benefit from it regardless of where you are in your life. Sharing this lesson, as well as how I learned it, is going to take me way out of my comfort zone and require me to open up much more than I'm used to. So hopefully, throughout the duration of this video, you and I will both be growing in our own ways. The journey that led me to this discovery started back in February of 2020 when my college girlfriend and I broke up. We dated for 3.5 years, and this hit me hard because, like most people, I wanted a healthy and long-lasting relationship, but in that moment, I knew I was going to have to make some pretty big changes if I was ever going to have one. So after the relationship ended, I spent a ton of time reflecting on how I could have been better and what I was going to need to work on in order to become the best version of myself in the future. And for reference, this was right in the middle of lockdown during the COVID panic, and I was in college, so I had plenty of time on my hands to do this reflecting. As I looked back, one thing that stood out above the rest was how drastically my attitude towards things that I knew I loved had changed once the relationship started. Activities like working out and reading felt like chores for me when I was in a relationship, which I obviously knew was a huge problem, but as I was sitting there and I was looking back, I wasn't entirely sure why that was the case. So I kind of moved past it and started to focus more on things that I could better understand and therefore work on more immediately. Now, as you can imagine, going through a breakup and being confined to my house during lockdown was pretty tough for me mentally. So in order to cope, I fell back on working out and reading, even though my relationship with them had deteriorated over the past few years. And to my surprise, as March and April passed, I started to notice that my love for them was actually coming back, and slowly but surely they stopped feeling like chores and once again became things that I was doing just because I wanted to do them. And I was happy to start enjoying them again, but I was also pretty confused because when I zoomed out on the situation, it kind of looked like this. Before the relationship, I loved working out and reading. During the relationship, working out and reading felt like chores. And after the relationship, I started to love them again. And obviously, that's not how things are supposed to go, so it became pretty clear to me that I was going to have to dig a little bit deeper and figure out why my attitude had actually changed towards these things when I was dating somebody. And around that same time, my dad actually gave me this book called Why We Do What We Do by Deci. And there's a bookmark in it again because I'm rereading it. It was so good the first time. It's all about intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation and how each one drives our actions and our decisions on a day-to-day basis. It wasn't until after reading this book that it sort of started to feel like all the pieces were kind of falling into place. And I realized that the answer to my question about why things that I loved, like working out and reading, started to feel like chores during the relationship actually had everything to do with where I was directing my focus. Before I was in a relationship and after I was out of it, I really directed my focus towards what sort of things I wanted to spend my time on. So what would make me happy and what would make me a better person. And then I did those things. But when I was in the relationship, my focus shifted subconsciously from what sort of things I wanted to spend my time on and what I wanted to do, to what my partner wanted, or at least what I thought that she wanted. For example, I thought that she wanted somebody fit and smart. And so what happened was that over time, that became my underlying reason for doing things like working out and reading books. It was no longer a case where I was acting autonomously and doing those things of my own volition, just because I wanted to. And it became a situation where I was doing those things because I thought I had to in order to be the person that she wanted me to be. And by focusing more on what somebody else wanted from me than what I wanted from myself, I was unknowingly undermining my motivation for doing the things that I loved. And at the same time, I was also letting my actions be directed by something that was completely out of my control, which was what somebody else thought of me. And the only variable that had changed over time was where I was directing my focus. So to put it simply, what happened was that my motivation had shifted from intrinsic, where I was acting autonomously based on what I wanted, to extrinsic, based on what I thought somebody else wanted me to do. And as that change occurred, I stopped loving things that I knew I enjoyed. I knew this was a profound realization, but I wanted to test it in other areas of my life to see if it still held true in something other than a relationship. So I carried this lesson with me as I started my job in July of 2020, and sure enough, what I noticed was that the more I focused on how other people did their work, the less I actually focused on doing my own, which made me way less productive. And not only that, but I was also taking away from my own ability to learn because I was trying to apply other people's solutions to my own problems. And I can tell you from personal experience, and you probably already know this, but this is not a good strategy, and it very, very rarely, if ever, works. Once I realized that this lesson went beyond just relationships and even held true in a professional setting, I immediately started to try to apply it to as many areas of my life as I could. And once I did, I started to notice almost right away that I felt more satisfied with my friendships, more satisfied with my progress towards my personal goals, and more satisfied with the way I was spending my time throughout my day. I also noticed that it was hard. It was hard for me to shift my focus away from what other people were doing or what other people thought and put it back onto myself. I think that there's two big reasons why this is the case. One, and you probably have guessed this, but it's social media. Every single day we wake up and we have Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and YouTube at our disposal. We're constantly looking at other people's highlight reels and we're seeing other people accomplish their goals. So it's hard for us to shift our attention away from those exciting things to the boring everyday tasks, which are actually what it takes to be able to create those highlight reels. The second one, so reason number two, and in my opinion, this one is just as important, if not maybe even a little bit more important than reason number one. When you shift your focus from other people and what they're doing or what they think, and you put it on yourself, what you're doing at the same time is you're taking full responsibility for your outcomes. This is exactly what taking control of your life looks like. I think it's taking responsibility for who you are and what you do, and owning your outcomes, and acting autonomously and being authentic. Maybe this is a little bit counterintuitive, but when I was focused on what I thought my partner wanted or how somebody else was doing their job, what I was really looking for was a step-by-step answer to how I could become something or what my next steps should be, rather than looking at myself and trying to figure it out on my own. But what happens when we do that is, although it may be easier in the moment, it makes things harder later on when all of a sudden you've taken this action and you've gotten so far, but then you start to look back and ask yourself how you even got to where you are. Right? You haven't been acting autonomously, you haven't been being authentic, and I'm imagining that if that's the case, and based on my own personal experience, you're gonna end up feeling lost, and that's the last place you ever want to be. So in summary, every second you spend focused on someone else or comparing yourself to others is a second you're taking away from your own improvement, your own development, and your own progress towards reaching the goals that you set. So focus on yourself, not other people. At the end of the day, the greatest gift that you can give the people around you is to just be 100% who you are, not who you think they want you to be. And the greatest way to achieve your goals is to do your own work, not to focus on how somebody else does theirs. I can tell you from personal experience, and hopefully after watching this video you agree with me, but you should not underestimate the power of focus. And if you take this lesson to heart and you apply it to your life, I fully believe that it'll allow you to take control and be in charge of the direction that your life is heading in. Alright, if you've made it this far, there is one last thing that I want to share, and it's something that I wish somebody had told me when I was in a relationship, so I want to share it in case there's anybody out there that needs to hear it. If you're in a relationship and you find yourself feeling insecure or questioning whether or not you're good enough, just remember that if something like intelligence or fitness or humor is something that is important to your partner, then the fact that they've consciously made the decision to be with you is all the proof that you need that your level of intelligence or fitness or humor is enough for them. There's always going to be somebody out there who's smarter, fitter, and funnier than you are. And if you're more focused on what you think your partner wants, then it's easy to fall into this trap of comparing yourself to other people. But the moment that you start to do that, the moment that you start to chase a goal that's impossible to reach, which is becoming the smartest, funniest, and fittest person on the planet. What I've learned is that it's your unique combination of competencies, limitations, quirks, talents, and your specific level of ability in all sorts of different areas of life that really make you who you are. And all you need to be focused on is being yourself. Because otherwise, what's the point? If you have any questions or comments on this topic, or you have anything you'd like to add, feel free to share it down below. I love hearing from you guys, and I love learning from your own experiences. Again, this was something that was definitely a little bit more uncomfortable for me to share, and definitely took me out of my comfort zone and made me open up more than I'm used to. So I appreciate the support, and I appreciate you watching all the way through. That's all I have for you guys today. I really hope you took something away from this video. Like I said before, this is something that has completely changed my life, so I was excited to share it, and hopefully it resonated with some of you. Thanks again for the support. I really appreciate you watching all the way through. Live your life to the fullest, and I'll see you in the next one.